Hello, my name is PJ Capozzi. I am Superintendent of Schools for Meridian 223, and this is the FY22 budget presentation. The budget presentation goes through three kind of core areas. One is just an examination of our overall data. The second is what our budget looks like for this coming year. And the third is the highlights and a brief explanation of the budgeting process. We'll start with Fund 10. Fund 10 is called the Educational Fund. Literally, anything that has to deal directly with the education of students is expended out of Fund 10. This includes salaries and benefits. This includes things like technology, food service, all the auxiliary services that lend themselves directly to students come from Fund 10. You can see there's a lot of numbers on this, but the biggest number to look at is that we are running a surplus budget of about $460,000 in this fund this year. The reason that's important is A, surplus budgets are always good, but B, it is not really what it seems. As a result of the influx of federal money this year, our revenue is higher than it typically would be, while our expenditures are not necessarily going up, meaning that some of the federal money that we received, we are paying for things that we would typically pay for anyway. So without that federal money, we anticipated being just about at a balanced budget in Fund 10. Fund 20 is anything to do with buildings and grounds. So again, this can be salaries and benefits. This can be things such as seed, weed killer, but also things such as electrical, plumbing, anything that deals with maintaining the general facility. In addition, we have large expenditures in Fund 20 that are electrical payments, gas payments, and things of that nature as well. You'll see that we're running a slight deficit this year as we project to do some projects that we did not quite finish in last fiscal year. So you'll see that we had a nice surplus at the end of last year. We're going to spend some of that down this year in projects. Fund 30 is bond and interest. This means that we simply pay our bills out of Fund 30 for things that we have bonded for in the past. So when we do large projects, whether it be health, life, safety, or additions, what we do is basically the same way you would mortgage a house, the same way we extend that long-term debt. So in Fund 30, whatever we owe is whatever we pay, and we have an established repayment schedule that is available for view in the audit. So whatever we take in is roughly whatever we take out. You'll see there's a fund balance that we carry in that, and that's simply as a result of payments coming in and going out on one end of the fiscal year and not going out to the other end of the fiscal year. But typically what we take in is what we put right back out. Fund 40 is transportation. You'll see it's one of our healthier annual funds. We have a healthy surplus in Fund 40. This year we will be running just about a balanced budget in Fund 40. We are, as you know, experiencing extreme driver shortages, and so we continue to try to do what we can to make this position attractive to new drivers and to sub-drivers as we try to hit every route. This shortage of drivers is not a Meridian problem, it's a statewide problem, but it's one that is closing in on us and is very close to home. Fund 50 is IMRF and Social Security. So for all of our non-certified staff, so staff that are not teachers or administrators, we pay a portion of their retirement that comes out of IMRF and Social Security. You'll see that we are running just about balanced this year. Fund 60 is capital. So this is where you have impact fees that local municipalities and villages can decide to charge when new construction goes in. The district has no control over what the local villages decide, nor is it very easy to project what's going to come in. We can only expend this money in areas that is designed to address the impact of having new bodies in our school. So we don't get a lot of money in and we don't get a lot of money out in this fund as a result, as you can see. Fund 70 is working cash. This is the one fund that if we are running a deficit in a fund over a period of time where we can take from working cash and very easily transfer into other funds. Fund 80 is support or risk management. So you're going to see that we had a large surplus last year and a deficit this year. That's simply a result of a project that we started last year not being completed. until late June or July of this year, which means that we paid it across a different fiscal year. So I would encourage us to look at these 2 fiscal years together, which looks, there's a little bit of a surplus, but it's much more balanced than looking at the 2 years independently. And Fund 90 is health, life, safety. So whenever something is noted as a health, life, safety issue, we are mandated by law to get it fixed. And then we have different timelines that we can go through. So we levy in this every year, and then we attack projects as we deem necessary. This summer, so work that's already been completed, we did a lot of asbestos abatement in Highlands ceilings. And so this was something that we were mandated to. It was a health, life, safety finding. And we completed that, and then we will pay for it, therefore, out of Fund 90. You'll see our overall data is that we're in a pretty healthy spot. We are running a balanced budget for this year, and we are continuing to have a healthy fund balance. The number that we really care about is our operating reserves, which is a combination of Fund 10, 20, 40, and 70. So that's transportation, buildings and grounds, education, and working cash. The reason that we care deeply about those 4 funds are those are the funds that we must spend out of regularly to exist. We have salaries and benefits and electrical and other things coming out of those that we have to have money coming in and coming out. The other funds kind of run or should run in a balanced fashion every year. We kind of bring in what we need and put out what we need. But the funds 10, 20, 30, or 10, 20, 40, and 70 are where we want to ensure that we're running healthy. And you can see that we've done a really good job of intentionally building this reserve over time. This is right about the level we would like it to be and stay consistent in the. A couple reminders just about the process. It's a really interesting process in Illinois. Our expenditures, when we are determining what we're going to spend, we are right now in September and we're approving a budget that started in July. So I think that's just a little bit awkward, but we also have to project forward quite a bit. So we will first do our levy to bring in revenue. Based off of a guess from the assessor, we will start that levy in November, which means that we'll start to think about the next levy for the next budget in November. And then based on those calculations, we start to make all these decisions. So it's a very fluid process that really kind of takes place throughout the course of the year. But there's 2 big dates that kind of hold it together. One is July 1, because that's when the fiscal year ends, and that's what the audit looks at, July 1 through June 30. And the second is the month of September, which is where there's formal budget approval, which is what this is a part of. When we look at our expenditures, what I say to the board quite frequently is that we can control expenditures, we can only project revenues. So we can do what we can to increase revenues. The better our schools, the better our property values, the more our tax base is. All of those things we can do, but those are very correlational and not causal. Expenditures we have direct influence over. And so that's what we try to focus on, is making sure that we're being as fiscally conservative as necessary, and that we are expending money toward what our priorities are, and we're working toward our long-term goals. Just as a reminder, we get revenue in a handful of ways. The number one way we get revenue is from you, the local community member. The second way is through general state aid, or what's now typically referred to as evidence-based funding. We also receive grants, and we've received more grants in the last 18 months than in my history as a superintendent, which obviously that's allows us to pursue different goals and to tackle different challenges, but that's just where it's at. Fees and payments that come are really a small portion of how we collect overall revenue. And then categorical payments are largely where we feel this is mostly in transportation and in some of our special education services. And these are repayments. So we pay first, and then the state of Illinois pays us back at a percentage of what we paid, so not the full typically. And then we get our categorical payments we have always gotten, just not necessarily on time. So we should get a quarterly payment, which means obviously we should get 4 payments per year. Some years we get 6, some years we get 1. It's the state of Illinois, so it's hard to project. So sometimes you'll see our revenue numbers way off at the final budget and the audit, and that has a lot to do with either when taxes are collected and or when categorical payments are delivered. Here's the highlights. Here's the things I want you to take away. We are operating with a balanced budget this year. We have 79% operating reserve, which is exactly right in that ballpark where we want to be. We are deficit spending in multiple funds, which is okay. All those are intentional, and we can withhold and withstand that for multiple years. And 2 of those are specific to, we started projects that didn't quite finish in time to be paid in last fiscal year. And just as a note, the ed fund is inflated. So this year, our balance looks better than it is because we have some typical expenditures we would make anyway that we're able to fit into a grant. So our expenditures did not necessarily go up while our revenue did. As always, thank you for sitting through 10 minutes of learning about our budget for this year. I really appreciate that you took the time. My contact information is below. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you and make it a great day.